Welcome to Storytime. Enjoy with me.
A White Heron by Orne, Jewett. The next day, the young hunter walked around the woods, and Sylvia went with him. She had lost her fear of the young man, who was friendly and kind. He told her many things about the birds and where they lived and what they did. And he gave her a pocket knife, which was a wonderful thing to her. She liked him very much indeed, but she did not like the shooting. She could not understand why he killed the birds that he seemed to love so much. But as the day passed, Sylvia still watched the young man, and the woman's heart, asleep in the child, slowly began to learn the dream of love. Together, they stepped softly through the woodlands. They stopped to listen to a bird's song, then went forward, carefully moving branches to one side. They spoke little, and only in whispers, the young man going first, and Sylvia following, with her gray eyes dark with excitement. She was sad, because they did not find the white heron, the bird that the young man wanted so much. But Sylvia only followed where he went. She could never speak first. It was hard enough for her to whisper yes or no to answer questions. At last evening came, and they found and drove the cow home together. And Sylvia smiled happily when they came to the place where she heard the whistle and was afraid only the night before. Half a mile from home, at the far edge of the woods, on high ground, a great pine tree stood. It was the last tree of an older forest, and around it a new wood of younger trees had grown. But the old pine tree's head stood high above them all, and was seen from miles away across land and sea. Sylvia knew this tree well. She believed that at the top it was possible to see the Atlantic Ocean. The little girl had never seen the sea, but she had often dreamed about it. Now she had a new idea, which filled her with excitement. From the top of this great tree she could see all the world. So couldn't she also see where the white heron flew, where it came from, and where it went to? She would see where it flew into the trees, and she would remember the place and find the hidden nest. What an adventure it would be, and how wonderful later in the morning when she could tell her great secret. The young hunter and the old grandmother slept deeply that night, but Sylvia lay awake, waiting for the short summer night to pass and her great adventure to begin. Before daylight, she quietly left the house and followed the path through the woods. The birds were making their first sleepy little calls, but Sylvia was thinking only about the great change that had come into her dull little life. Ah, Sylvie, Sylvie, do not forget that the birds and animals of the forest were your first friends. Now she came to the great pine tree, and small and foolish Sylvia began to climb. First, she must climb the white oak tree next to the pine tree. She had often climbed this tree and knew that one of its high branches went into the pine tree, and she could move from one tree to the other. She made that dangerous crossing safely, and now began to climb the pine tree itself, using all her fingers and toes to hold on. The way was harder than she thought. She must reach far and hold fast. A red squirrel, coming down the tree, stopped in great surprise when it saw her, and then ran away along a branch. Bravely she climbed upward. Light was just appearing in the eastern sky, and the small songbirds began to sing their welcome to the new day. Higher and higher Sylvia climbed. Her fingers ached from holding on, and the roughness of the branches hurt her feet. But on she went. Perhaps the old pine tree welcomed this stranger among its branches, and loved the brave, beating heart of the gray-eyed child. At last, Sylvia's face appeared like a pale star, and she stood, tired and aching, but bright with victory, high in the treetop. Yes, there was the sea in the east, with the sun making a golden path across it. And in the west, the woods and farms, the green fields and white villages reached miles into the distance. Truly, it was a great and beautiful world. The birds sang louder and louder, and the sun grew brighter. Sylvia could see the white sails of ships out at sea, and the purple-pink clouds began to turn white. Where was the white heron's nest in this sea of green branches? Now look down, Sylvie, to where the green marsh lies between the trees. There, where you saw the white heron once, you will see him again. Look, look! Something white is flying upward from the dead hemlock tree by the green marsh. It comes higher and higher and flies past the great pine tree, its white wings beating slowly. Now it lands on a branch nearby and cries back to his mate on the nest below and cleans his feathers for the new day. The child watches, her heart full of happiness. She knows the wild white heron's secret now. In a minute, he flies away, back down to his home in the green world below. Then Sylvia begins the dangerous climb down, careful not to look down, and ready to cry sometimes because her fingers ache and her feet hurt. But she wonders over and over again what the young man will say to her when she tells him how to find his way straight to the heron's nest. "Sylvie! Sylvie!" called the busy old grandmother again and again, but Sylvia's small bed was empty. The visitor woke up and hurried to get ready for his day in the woods. He was sure from the shy little girl's face that she knew where the white heron was. Here she is now, paler than ever, her dress dirty from the pine tree. The grandmother and the hunter stand at the door together and question her, and the great moment has come to speak of the dead hemlock tree by the green marsh. But Sylvia does not speak after all, although the young man's kind eyes are looking straight into her own. He can make them rich with money. He has promised it, and they are poor now. She wants so much to make him happy, and he waits to hear the story that she can tell. No, she must keep silent. Why suddenly is it forbidden to speak? It is the first time in her young life that the great world has put out a hand to her, and must she push it away because of a bird? The sound of the great pine tree's branches is in her ears. She remembers how the white heron came flying through the golden air, and how they watched the sea and the morning together, and Sylvia cannot speak. She cannot tell the heron's secret and give its life away. The pain in that loyal heart was great when the young man went away disappointed later in the day. The promise and the dream of love had gone forever. For a long time she heard again his whistle as she came home with the cow, and she even forgot her sadness at the sound of his gun and the songbirds falling silent to the ground. Were the birds better friends than their hunter? Who can tell? But remember, you wild creatures of the woodland, what this child has lost. Bring your love and trust and tell your secrets to this lonely country child.